Everybody hear me, right? Okay, cool. I don't like podiums. I think they kind of like hold you back from like having a conversation with people. So I try and get away from them as much as possible. But first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's here. I want to give you guys a round of applause because this stuff is really, 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 really important. And everybody here is sort of the minority, right? There's a reason you're all invested for why you're here, right? Either because you've been touched by this idea of hope, or you've lost somebody, or even that you're just interested in psychology or helping people, right? Which is really great. But the majority, I think, of people are sort of out there, and some of those people are struggling. And I think it's one of the things that society needs to do a better job of is helping those people find the services that they need. And everybody in this room has an investment in that and has the ability to help with that, even very minusculely. And I kind of want to let you guys know that you guys all have that power. You know, one of the things that brought this whole event out was a suicide, right? If you know the history of why this event was created. And I think suicide is still one of those things, when we say it, we kind of shy away from it as a society. But it's out there. You see all these hands, right? They represent all the people that, even just some of the people that are lost every year. So it's something we need to become more comfortable talking about. And, when I started getting into advocacy work, one of the areas that I was most interested in was suicide. And there's this wonderful book, I have a copy of it with me. It's called Why People Die by Suicide. It was written by Professor Thomas Joyner, who is a professor of psychology at the Florida State University. And I think the theory that he puts forth in that book is wonderful, because it really helps you to sort of understand this process. Because the human reaction when we hear about these things is, well, why? Why does this happen? And in the book, he really tries to tease that out. Now, I'm not trying to turn this into a lecture for anybody, because I'm sure you've all heard lectures all day long. But I think it's, I kind of want to draw from these two books. So in Why People Die by Suicide, he has this two-tier theory of why it happens. And the first part of it is the want to choose that as an option. And he says that it comes out of two things. It comes out of a perception that we are a burden to others, and that our existence somehow holds another person's existence down. And the second half of that is this feeling that we don't belong, that we don't have a sense of belonging with other people. And in his theory, he says that's not enough to have this dark thing happen. There's another component, which is what he calls the ability to enact lethal self-injury. It's one of the reasons why people who are in the medical fields, people who are in construction, commercial fishermen, they all have higher rates of suicide. And it's because what he argues is that they're more prone to being subjected to physical pain. So they become more attenuated to it, which means that they're better equipped to commit this thing to themselves. Now, I think that his theory is sort of illuminating how this process happens. But it lacks an argument for why people shouldn't do it. And that's why I brought in this other book, which is called Stay by Jennifer Michael Hecht, who is a professor of, I have the copy over there as well. She's a professor of poetry at the New School. And she traces the history, the philosophical arguments behind and religious arguments behind why history has told people to avoid suicide. And she makes the argument that in today's society, we don't have something like that anymore. We don't have a definitive religious or philosophical framework for why people should stay. So she proposes two things. She proposes two arguments. The first is that our lives are intricately interconnected. And when we choose to take our own life, we instantly put the lives around us at risk. Because one of the predictors for suicide is knowing a suicide. And what she calls it deferred homicide. I think that's a little extreme. But I think it speaks to this idea that we're all interconnected and our lives are affected by other people's lives. And when one life is lost, another can be affected in such a way that it's almost inspiring, which is tragic. The second half of her argument, which I think is more interesting, is when one commits to taking their own life, they rob their future self of any possibility of happiness. Because in her view, the afterlife might hold peace, but we don't really know that for certainty. What we do know is that life has the possibility for happiness. And so you owe it to yourself to sort of stay. And I think what's really incredible about these two theories is that that first half, that part where if I commit to this act, I instantly put the lives of the people around us in danger. It goes back to Joyner's theory with this perceived burdensomeness. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy where the burdensomeness comes out when the act is actually performed. And, you know, having these understandings and recognizing that all of our lives are interconnected, we're all touched by moments, is that power that I talked about at the beginning, right? That power that we all have to just let somebody know, hey, you matter. Hey, I appreciate that you're still here. Thank you for choosing life. Thank you for staying, is the argument that she makes in that book. And I think that's really, really, really powerful. And the idea that this is all we need to help people. These things that we're given. And it just takes one moment to let a person know, to bring them over to CAPS, which, you know, you've done this wonderful job explaining to us. You know, it just takes a moment to just sort of, come on, let's go over that. These are all we need to help people. Now, a person's life is not our responsibility. A person's life is in their own hands, but we can still help somebody save it, right? With these tools that we've been given. And I think there's a power in our hands to save our lives by reaching out to others for help, and by saving the lives of other people by showing them the way to help. And that's something that every single person in this room has. And we can take that out into the community. And that's one thing that I think we should all get from this event, is that we have that power. And we need to take these things that we learn, and we need to reach those people that are hidden out there that need some help. You know, because they're out there. And a lot of times they're screaming for help, but we just don't hear. So I wanted to kind of end on on a poem that really kind of exemplifies this idea of how powerful these things that we have, these interconnected lives, and these hands that we have. I hold in my hand nothing, which is precisely what I'm not. It complements what will stop me and everything I've got. Air is just unrealized breath. For me to inhale and exhale with words attached to them like kites, made from book pages I haven't written yet, with a key tied to the string to unlock my very best to be blessed by God. A lightning rod to strike the string with a smithereen of wisdom tethered to my heart. I hold in my hands the potential energy to see the things they couldn't see, shouldn't see. Could it be that I'm a seed sown into a broken promise, one that Nostradamus couldn't harvest when he foresaw this moment? A poet, immune to karma, a Maharaja, Dalai Lama mama, wanted to be a doctor, maybe not. Maybe I hold in my hand infinite dimensions in which I've learned infinite lessons from infinite transgressions. I am an infant's dream, a memory of birth, a reflection of the light that's shone on your infinite worth. I hold in my hand ghosts, hope for a better future, fleeting phantoms of the past that nurture the fraying sutures that hold my world together. A word of a different feather, a quill for a founding father of this life, this hand which will touch infinite others, infinite more. But please, take it. After all, it's yours. Thank you very much.